The distance. I have never been single. I met my first husband when I was 12 years old and we had 3 children by the time I was 20. When our son was 5 months old, I found out about his cheating. Many times, over and over again, including once with my sister. He left me for the current lover and yes, they are still together to this day. They have a love-hate relationship and he has cheated on her many times as well. When I met my current husband, V, I was still married to my ex and had not yet found out about the current affair. He showed some interest but I was very much a walk the line and would never have cheated. Besides, I couldn't stand him at the time. 2 weeks after I met him, my husband left me and I was devastated. My current husband V was a friend of my mother and happened to stop by one day while I was there crying on her shoulder. I was 20 with 3 small children and had never worked a day in my life. I didn't drive, didn't have an education and had known nothing but being a wife and a mother. This man was so very different from my husband and had a great job, was good looking and interested in me. I stood my ground however and would not have a relationship with him though he kept trying. After a few months of his pursuing me constantly, I realized this man was the opposite of my ex and I could trust him to never hurt me, so even though I felt no spark with him I decided to give him a chance. I waited 3 years to marry him and did so knowing we had no passion, but by then I was pregnant and wanted to do what was right for my children. I thought we could make it work. That was 16 years ago. I have cheated with over 10 men since then and he has cheated once with my sister, before I ever cheated. If you have any questions as to why or what led to my cheating, I will answer you with all honesty. I have listed myself with an alias because I am ashamed of my mistakes but thankful to have learned from them and seen the light. I do not cheat anymore. I am not proud of it nor do I condone it. I don't have excuses. What I did was wrong but I do have reasons. But if anyone can be helped by what I went through, then I am more than happy to share my whys and what I did. 3 affairs spanning 7 years and numerous hookups. It's not pretty, over 10 men, but it's honest admission. So please don't judge me. I am not the same woman. I wake up each day thankful to have a new start. This thread can be open to any and all questions about why women cheat or infidelity questions. I am no expert but can share my experiences and thoughts on it. My sister has a ton of issues, which is why I was able to forgive her. There is not a man that I or my mother have ever been interested in that she didn't pursue. When I found out, I was crushed. Up until that point I had my husband as the only man I had ever been involved with that had no interest in her. Unfortunately, it is not that way anymore. Turns out he had always wanted to sleep with her. I was the marrying type and she was the one-night stand type. If you can put labels on us, that is. I married him because I was young and scared. I didn't want to introduce my children to the dating scene and didn't want to be alone for the rest of my life. I figured things weren't so horrible that I couldn't sacrifice passion for a good man, a father figure and support. I should say that looking back I did marry him mostly for the stability he provided. Growing up poor, I was terrified of raising my children alone. I didn't realize how strong I was and I was very insecure. Over time, I grew and changed and I knew that I married him for all of the wrong reasons. But like it or not, I had made my bed and thought I had to sleep in it. So, for years, I struggled to be happy and the result was me compromising who I was by becoming someone I didn't recognize in search of happiness. I am fine with who I am now, happy even. What happened was the past, not the present or the future. We learn from our mistakes. For the record, I do pay my taxes. I don't lie anymore. I don't steal or cheat. I am good to my employees and all of the above. I am me, plain and simple. Love me or hate me. I will survive either way. Thank you for the well wishes. This thread is not for me. It's to help the million others that may be affected by a woman like me. A cheater. What's the saying? You can't con a con artist. Well, I was the con artist now reformed, offering up my experiences. That's all. It was never about the bonding. It was about emotional connection. Most of the time I never even enjoyed the bonding. And for the record, my H is aware of all that I have done and we are doing very well now. We still have problems but working them out. This was years ago that I cheated. And yes, I had 4 children by the age of 23 to the other poster. I am 36 and my daughters are doing well. One is married and graduated and the other is engaged with a baby on the way. I may have screwed up my relationship but I kept my children out of it. Comments. No offense but I don't think it's a big mystery why you did it. You wanted to and you found a way to let yourself. Sure, your story seems complicated to you, but it's not. It's as simple, cheap and common as stories get. What you're going to be giving are your rationalizations, and how you talked yourself into it. Each person is different. The ones you pushed and how you came to find them are inconsequential. On a guess, your rationalization hamster is likely the loveless marriage, like scared to be alone, provide for kids, no love, just duty. That loveless marriage defense got stronger in your mind and eventually opened your legs to whomever you wanted in the moment. Now that you're reformed, I hope you admit the simple truth. You did it because you wanted to, and you could. So, you did. OP responds, whatever you say. It's not as simple as that, nor did I say my story was special. There just aren't many women willing to admit the truth as much as I have. But just so you are aware, There are clubs of women out there like me that would die before admitting to the crazy physical things they have done while maintaining being a preacher's wife or singing in the choir or working in politics by day and being a stripper by night, all in the name of a loveless marriage. For the record, I never said my marriage was loveless. And yes, I know a few of those women and would never betray them. They have to reform themselves if they so choose to. I didn't let my husband find out about it. I told him up front. He had his suspicions but could not confirm anything. I became very good at hiding what I didn't want him to know. I don't like that, but it's the truth. Yes, we are happy now. We have both grown up and forgiven. The last affair ended in 2018. I have been true to not only my husband since then, but to myself as well. I don't want any other men anymore. And if I run into some of the men that I had flings with or whatnot, I don't run and hide, but I do evaluate how I feel about it, go home and talk to my husband about it, and most of the time it's asking myself, what was I thinking? I am ashamed for the most part. This is the first time I have ever written about this to anyone. I think many years ago, like back in 2014 or something, I posted about my very first affair. That was so long ago I had forgotten it. I wasn't in a good place then and did not take the hurtful comments well. I don't even remember what site, but that was so long ago I had almost forgotten it. There was one man on there that was really odd but very supportive for me. To start with, I think I need to give some background information on myself more than what I have given. Growing up, I had a terrible childhood. The silver lining, I was different and I knew it. They knew it too. I was the white sheep in a black sheep family. I carried myself different. When everyone was partying or getting pretty for the boys, I was burying my nose in a book. I tried to keep to myself and keep out of trouble. I walked the line, made straight A's in school, and did what I was told, even if it meant taking my clothes off for the men of my family because I was 6 and didn't know they were wrong. As bad as that sounds, it was normal for me. I didn't realize how much my life sucked because I was too busy enjoying running through the woods, listening to the birds, sailing the high seas, and the novel that I read. I lost myself in fantasy and did well in everything to keep out of trouble. Even now, I paint and sketch, I sing, I take martial arts, I write poetry and work on a novel. I live my life to the fullest. What changed me to become the adulterer that I was only started with my ex sleeping with my sister while I was pregnant. Then the time he slept with an old childhood friend and her girlfriend at the same time while I was at home during a storm with our 1-year-old and pregnant, and a tree fell on the trailer. Talk about scared. I was 17. I had no mother to really comfort me. She was too busy chasing men 20 years her junior. My sister was sleeping with the football team basically and getting beat up by her ex at the same time. My life was awful, and amidst it all I just wanted to take care of my children and love my husband. After my divorce and I moved in with New Age, I did everything humanly possible to make him happy. I cooked and cleaned, I made his plate for him and took care of the house, bonding anytime he wanted it and was willing to do anything for him physically. I had no backbone. I was his slave. He would come home and I would hug him while he stood there with his arms by his side looking around inspecting the house. My H is from Italy. Very stern and controlling. Very controlling. I know it is contradicting to what I said earlier, and I will get to that. I let him control me because everyone else in my life had, and I knew no better. My ex called me a B for letting my family ex me, but I didn't. I tried to stop them when I got older but was threatened with my life. So, I let him convince me I was a horrible person. I let these men treat me however they wanted. Then one day I was talking to a friend when something dead inside of me came to life. My H hadn't slept in the bed with me in 5 years. Hadn't told me he loved me in years, but oh how I loved him at this point. This friend that I had never shared any relationship issues with called me on the phone. I knew I shouldn't talk to him. My husband was extremely jealous and would likely blow a gasket if he knew. But I felt a spark of rebellion ignite. I was not attracted to this man. I didn't plan on sleeping with him, but for once I wanted to have control of myself and who I talked to. He called me to tell me not to discuss personal things with his wife. He wanted to warn me that she wasn't truly my friend, and now he and his entire family knew my dirty little secrets. I was horrified yet grateful. He continued to call me. I fell in love, or the fog as some would call it. That lasted almost 2 years, and not once did I enjoy the bonding. It was purely emotional. My husband changed overnight. He started sensing that I didn't care anymore about what he did or said to me. I stopped cleaning or cooking the way I used to. I kept my house clean for me but did it on my time when I wanted to. He would come home to me buried in a novel or lost in space daydreaming and not caring about his laundry or his dinner. I wasn't his slave anymore. How empowering. He didn't know how to behave. At first, he threatened, and I told him he had one time to hit me and he would have to sleep at some point. He moved back in the bed and started making passes at me, which I declined. Oh, the victory at having him beg me for love after all the years I begged him. I had tried talking and pleading. We had love for each other. We just didn't show it. Ever. Or he didn't. So, he became clingy and even more jealous if that was possible. Still no clue about the affair. It was someone who lived within walking distance that he knew well, and we kept it well hid. I was terrible. I know it, and I am not proud of it. I did things I never thought possible. I had given up on love, on life, all the cliché reasons. When I ended that affair, it was because my husband was finally showing me the love I had always craved. I realized I didn't want A1 as a husband or even a lover. My life was terrible after I told my husband. I was the Scarlet, and my lover's wife made sure that the entire school board knew. She made sure all of my children knew, and hers as well. She would shout it to people walking down the street. She once threw pizza at me and tried to run me over with her car. I deserved her hate, but my children did not. I stayed a lady and walked with my head held high and tears running down my cheeks. I wrote her an apology letter and begged her forgiveness. I let my husband abuse me physically once after I told him. Not hitting, but physical. After that once, I realized if I didn't stop it that it would become the normal for him, so I again reminded him that I will not tolerate it any longer. Once I understood, I had hurt him. A year after the outing of my affair, I found out that my husband had slept with my sister before we were married, but while I was pregnant with our son. I figured that I had my affair only so I could forgive him this sin because of the previous hurt caused by my sister. I told him when I first started dating him that if he had any attraction whatsoever to her to let me know, because I would walk away. I will not be a pawn in any man's sick game to bang all 3 of the women in my family. After a while, we started going to church. I got saved. He got saved. Things cooled off. Trust was being rebuilt. Then he started turning me down for bonding. He started being distant. The same old routine was starting back. One night I went to him begging for intimacy, and he flat turned his back on me. Out of anger, I went online where I met A2. That started as me feeling sorry for him because he didn't have anyone. He made me feel needed and loved. Lasted for almost 2 years. I ended it again when H started suspecting and showing love again. Oh, what a web we weave. I am leaving out so many things on purpose because this is a novel in and of itself. A3 started from a website specifically for this purpose. In between affairs there were some one-night stands. Some regulars that weren't affairs but FWB, so to speak. I felt in control of myself finally, and my husband was a mess. He was clingy and sappy, bringing me flowers again and opening doors. I resented him and hated him for it. I see his cycle and I see mine. In my mind I was screaming at myself to stop this. There are 2 sides of me. Literally, a demon and an angel. One begging me to give him another chance and be honest with him so he knows what he is letting go of, and the other saying no. Enjoy this newfound power that I had. Enjoy playing with these men and using them for exactly what they were good for. Bonding. I hated men, but I used them. I was in a very bad place. There is a book called The 48 Laws of Power introduced to me by A3. A soldier. A man I truly fell head over heels in love with. A man that broke my heart and helped me become the woman I am now. I let him go too, because he was using this book against me. He inadvertently told me about this book one day when we were walking through the bookstore hand in hand. Later I purchased it and realized what games he had been playing. He did love me. I know that for sure. I loved him. But I didn't love how I met him, and I didn't love what it would do to his family if I took him from her. I didn't love what it would do to my family. My children were kept in the dark for the most part. I had to explain about the first affair, but my husband and I did it together with very little detail and with a lot of holding hands and kissing and reassuring them that things were going to be okay, that we were not splitting up. There is backlash, but not from my affair. Ironically, it is daddy issues with my oldest son from his dad leaving me for another woman. I hit rock bottom when I let my soldier go. I had a choice to make. I could keep seeking happiness at the bottom of the affair barrel and keep hurting myself and my husband, or I could admit that I had a problem and do something about it. I didn't want to go back to the way we were before because that didn't work, obviously. I sat my husband down and told him everything and gave him the options. I now have a good job so I could leave if I needed to. I didn't feel stuck with him anymore, and I had learned so much in all of my games that I knew I was a strong woman with a ton of willpower, and I built on that. I built on my confidence and learned to love myself again. I realized that if I didn't respect myself, no one else would. If I continued to play games I was always going to be played. No one would take me serious anymore if this got out. No one would respect me. All the while I am singing on television for my church and being an ambassador for a certain humanitarian organization. I am donating my time and money to charities and living a complete lie. I was a walking, talking hypocrite. Go figure. Rock bottom was letting go of soldier but also telling husband, because the core in me always did what was right. Rock bottom meant being scared silly that I had an STD from the one weekend with a man 15 years younger than me who had an STD that he didn't disclose when protection broke. Rock bottom meant facing life realizing I was now a black sheep like the rest of my family, and I had nothing that set me apart from them. I was lost. I understand that most people don't reach the level that I have when it comes to forgiveness because most people haven't been hurt quite the way I have. Everything I have posted is nothing in comparison to all that I have gone through, and yet I know that there are others who have been through worse. I am to the point that I don't care what people think of me. I have learned from my mistakes and feel that everything happens for a reason. So yes, I had to cheat to understand the cheater and be able to forgive. We are not horrible people. We are just human. One sin is no different from another sin. I feel bad for the people who have been hurt on here. I hope that they can realize and understand that to forgive someone isn't for the person that hurt them. It is for themselves so that they can move on and finally be happy. Not everyone finds that. I am at peace with my life now. I love my husband and he loves me, and we have more passion than ever in our marriage. If I am ever to be the witness God wants me to be, I have to start somewhere. Maybe this is the place, telling the world how wicked I was, and how I am no saint now, but I am on the path to recovery. The atmosphere was very tense for a while, but we continued to go to bed together at night and talk things out. My H has his issues too. We did split up once, for 6 weeks, but he stuck by me, and I thank God for giving me such a strong man. And here I thought he was weak. Turns out, he was stronger than any man I know, mentally, where it matters most. As crazy as things were with me, I never got into a strange man's car. I may be a lot of things, but crazy was not one of them. Well, not in the sense that I would purposefully put myself in danger. There was no dramatic event, and it did not happen overnight. It was a period of time. The STD scare sure helped, and thank God I was clean. I think we all have some crazy in us, and everyone keeps saying I am brave. I don't see it as brave. I am just straightforward. I learned that it is better to be outright honest than to hide behind lies. Besides, it is not easy remembering all of those lies. It's much more liberating to be all me. One me, not two-faced, no secret agendas. Gosh, even posting on here is liberating. I can finally be honest with the world here. I take it this is a close-knit group that harbors resentment against cheaters. I don't blame them. Been there myself. His attempts were counterproductive. I resented him trying to love me with shallow measures. I resented him trying to love me at all after all the begging and pleading I had done. It wasn't until he thought he had lost me that he wanted me. I hated his flowers and his chivalry. I wanted him to yell at me or leave me. I wanted him to have his own life that didn't involve me all of the time. I wanted him to realize his mistakes and truly love me, and flowers and candy didn't show that. Communication would. He was trying to put a band-aid on an open heart surgery. I am educated and will go into further detail on that later. I do not need people to make me feel better. I have plenty of people to talk to if needed. My H being the number one. I have read many of your statements to him and invited him to join. I didn't come here to boast about me, nor am I on a mission from God. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. My youngest is 13 and is a boy. My oldest is 20 and she is newly married, about to start college, and wanted to be with her childhood sweetheart but not out of wedlock, so she married him first. He is the only man she has ever been with. She wants to wait for children until she gets her education complete. Her husband supports her in that decision. My youngest daughter is 18. She is due very soon. She moved a few thousand miles away when she was 16 to live with her father because she wanted to see what it would be like up north and try to get her career going. While there, with her dad, she became addicted to drugs. Many troubles ensued and Dad eventually sent her home to me to deal with. I grew up in the ghetto. I was very poor, and by the time I was 23 had lived in 21 different locations around the same town. That being said, that does not mean that I wasn't smart. There is a difference between book smart and street smart. I happen to have a little of both. My family being more of the street smart and I more of the book smart. I still traverse to the ghetto from time to time now to visit my family, and am I afraid? Absolutely not. I am used to it. I don't fit in. As a matter of fact, I stick out like a sore thumb with my business suit and high heels. The last IQ test I took was 128, but I have taken many that range from 126 to 138. I think I am really more on the lower side of that spectrum. My education, of course, consists of a jet obtained when I was 20. I did not marry my husband for money. He made around 25 grand a year when I met him, which is not a lot. He is a working class man that comes home greasy every day. After my jet, I did attend 2 years of tech college. I did that before I married him because I wanted to be independent. He convinced me to quit my job after we were married. I married him for stability, but stability has more than one meaning. It does not simply mean monetary. It is the state of being stable, which in turn means that I wanted a good father for my children, a good husband for me that I could depend on to come home nightly and not go out drinking or doing drugs or sleeping around like my first husband. I wanted a good man to help raise my children because I knew how important a father figure is, considering the fact I grew up basically without a father. My H and I still struggle but make a bit more money now. We have gone through periods of struggling to the point of not having food to eat, and still we made it through. When I say we kept our children out of it, that means that I did not explain to them my relationship problems. I did not make my daughters my best friends. I did not argue with my H in front of them. I did not make it their business to know everything Mom and Dad were going through. I still did routine and kept up appearances. Could they sense that problems were going on behind closed doors? Yes, I am sure they could. When we separated for 6 weeks, of course they knew problems were occurring. Did we talk bad about each other and involve our children with our problems? No. Did we tell our children how to behave around the other parent? No. We encouraged them to continue life as they knew it, that none of this was their fault and that we would work out our differences. I know I have made a ton of mistakes during all of this, but I have 4 children, all of whom were raised the same way with the same rules and regulations. There is discipline in my home and my children do respect me and my husband. How is it that 2 of my children are doing fantastic and 2 are not when they were raised in the same home? I am in the middle of preparing dinner, so I don't have time once again to answer all of the questions. I am trying to keep up with them. I am also good with people. However, I listen with an open heart and do not judge. I can socialize and don't steer away from people either. The 2 children that are like me and doing well have my personality. The 2 children that are getting into trouble have my ex-H's personality. I do believe personality makes a difference. How they are raised makes a difference too. It has been almost 5 years and my H and I are still going strong. We argue, we bond, we wrestle and laugh. We talk and talk and talk. I am good friends with A1's wife again. My H is good friends with A1 again. He came over the other day as a matter of fact. We take precautions so no trust issue is started again, such as I am never alone with him nor do I allow him to call me or things such as that. So, I ask again, how much time is needed to show a person has changed? I know, and the sad truth is that I treat this as an addiction so as not to sneak up on me again. It was an addiction of sorts, not to the bonding but to the emotional connection, to the feeling of being wanted. It was a sickness within me like a cancer brought on by abuse, low self-esteem and so much more. I look at myself in the mirror on a daily basis and ask myself, where do I see this person in 5 years? What are my goals? Each day I take steps to see those goals met. One day at a time. I don't feel that I will ever cheat again, but I am on my guard as a prevention measure. Just as an alcoholic cannot ever have another drink, I cannot ever let my emotional state take control over me again. I have to be in control of me, for no one else can. I would say the first step to recovery if you are a cheater is just like any other first step in making a change. You must first realize that you have a problem. That is the first step. Once that is realized, then you can move on to each additional step to making the changes within yourself necessary to live a complete life full of joy and happiness. And imperfection. Just as a chipped tooth adds character to a person, so do imperfections in our personalities. My spontaneous laugh where I snort through my nose and choke on my drink. I never take anything for granted any longer. If my H could forgive me, why not the filth I cheated with? It's not like we socialize with them daily, but we have learned that maturity means more than simply saying I forgive you. It's being a true Christian while maintaining boundaries to prevent future heartache. I am very surprised at how little some people know about true forgiveness. My H is a very humble man of God. Even Satan is an angel. There are genuine good people in the world that can truly forgive and truly let go and trust again. Seeing that example in my husband as he changed from the man he used to be to the man he is now has changed many lives around us through the last 5 years. My H is not emotionally broken. Trust me, he has always been more of a laid-back person that doesn't yell. Oh, he will let me know if he doesn't like something, I can promise you that. As far as abuse goes, I do not abuse my H. I tried many times to get him to end it with me and to just leave. I told him over and over that I didn't deserve him or our relationship, but he stood by me. Him being around the other man is no different than me being around my sister almost every day of our lives. I have had to forgive him for cheating with her, and he did it first. He slept with her more than once, and she lived with us for more than a year when she was homeless, and let me tell you this. Her middle daughter that she pretty much gave away to strangers may very well be my husband's child. So, don't say he is abused by being around a man he forgave, because I deal with the same abuse, but when you truly forgive, you don't consider it abuse. You relish the opportunity to grow as a person, which is something in and of itself. My H fixed some of the OM property for him at no charge and without OM asking. He did it on his own. So, I guess he is the one glutton for punishment, as well as I for allowing my sister to come over here and us to go over there. Please don't speak of something that you really don't know anything about. I do not abuse people, and I did not break him. I was very wrong in all that I did and have no excuses, but it takes 2 to make a marriage and 2 to break a marriage despite what everyone says. My comment, OP will finish off part 2 tomorrow. Do you guys believe in true remorse? And would you stay with someone who cheated multiple times?